Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to our community. I'm Andy Thornton, President and CEO of the Greater Peoria Family YMCA, your host for our community. So this week we're going to talk about do you attribute to your success? What truly drives success? It's not luck. It's your habits, your mindset, and the choices you make every day. In this episode, we're breaking down the key factors that push you forward or hold you back. Are your daily actions aligning with your goals, or are excuses getting in the way? Let's uncover what contributes to success, how to stay on track, and what it takes to keep moving forward no matter what. With me today is Christine Bare Kemper.
Hey.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks
I heard a rumor that you're running for Illinois Central College Board of Trustees.
It's
right?
a true rumor. Yes.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is really exciting for me. I attribute so much coming right into this. I attribute literally me sitting here being able to talk to you and where I am in life to Illinois Central College.
Okay.
So I went through Illinois Central College ICC when I was in my 30s as a single mom of 3 kids.
Wow.
And having this place in our backyard, this amazing institution that reaches so many individuals wherever they're in their walk of life, right out of high school or 30 and single with 3 kids. It gave me the opportunity to build not only my academic success, but that mental courage and that, I can do this. And so it really kickstarted a lot of that in my life.
That's awesome.
To be able to then move on to Bradley and then career from there. So I feel like this is an opportunity that I can give back to the school. I did have the pleasure of serving on the foundation board for ICC for 2 terms, so 6 years, and that was a few years ago that I came off of that. And there's 2 seats open for this election, and I'm hoping to get one of those for the 6-year term.
How many are running? Is there 4?
There's 4 people running.
Okay.
There's 2 incumbents. They both have served 2 terms now. My thought process on this is just like anything. 2 terms is enough time to make an impact, and I don't look at doing this long term. I'm looking at doing this for the next 6 years. And so there'll be 2 seats open, 4 people running, and I hope to be one of them. Yeah. And that's April 1.
Yeah. Well, I wish you well.
Thank you.
Congratulations on making the choice to run. That's not an easy thing to do.
No. Yeah. You have to be committed to it. It's something that, it's once a month, it's meetings, and it's not just the meetings, right? Yeah. It's about being that ambassador and following that passion and being that person that can help this institution grow.
And I feel like ICC has really has done well for a long time. I mean, they've been around forever, but recently, last 5-10 years, really kind of elevated their game, and especially in the whole workforce development area.
Yes.
I mean, I know what I'm talking about here, but Dr. Quirk-Bailey has done an amazing job.
She's the real deal
at that college.
She really is.
She is a transformational leader. Yep. She's done some really good things, and I'm excited to see what more they're going to do. So.
Yeah,
I will support you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So congratulations to you and good luck in that regard. So, all right, we're going to dig into the conversation. We're going to talk about what do you attribute to your success. I feel like you've got a lot to offer this conversation. You already started to share a little bit about that, but before we dig into it, I'm just going to share the definition for the word attribute, and it is regard something as being caused by. So when you think about the success that you've had in your life, and we're going to break it down into segments here. We're going to follow kind of the structure of Kim's article this week for the I've Decided community. One of the things that she talked about in her article was examining your habits. So I've got a question for you. What habits do you have in your daily life that are intentionally designed to help you be more successful?
So as we talked a little bit before we started recording, I didn't read this, and it's funny that this is one of the questions, because one of the things that we got brought up was a habit that I broke with Kim right before this. So it's interesting to try to find habits, right? I am not an overly religious person, but a very spiritual person. And so one of my habits is prayer. And this is something that I am not a routine person where I get up and, I'm getting up at 6:00 and then I'm doing this. So that's not a habit for me. For me, more of my habit is, what do I need to accomplish in my day? Yeah. And so really just having... So you have a plan for each day. I do have a plan for each day. Yeah. Well, I think that's an important habit to have in order to be successful. There you go. So it's a plan. And what is that accomplishment, right? Is it a workout? Right. Is it, I need to make dinner? Is it I'm hosting something? Is it I need to do this within my workplace? And for me personally, in my world and who I am and my personality, it's very fluid, right? So nothing is very routine. Right. No 2 days are the same. Right. So what are the habits that have to be there every day? Right. Connecting with my husband. Sure. I have to connect with him and we have to be on the same page. And it's interesting because by 1 or 2, if we haven't connected in the morning, I get a call, hey baby, what are the plans tonight? What are we doing? Right. So I'm the connector of all of that. Yeah. But I was even just saying, even prayer. So a lot of my times in life, I'm just, okay, God, open the doors where I need to be today. Yeah. Slam them shut where I don't need to be so I don't waste that energy. Yeah. And to me, that's just more of a mantra day in and day out, because that just takes so much weight and pressure off of myself. I have to be astute. I have to pay attention. I have to have my plan, right? Yeah. I have to have my meetings. I've got my goals, whether it be for work or life. But to be successful, it's so much more than just those things that you're checking off the box. It's those relationships and those opportunities that are presented to you daily. Yeah. And if you don't allow yourself that openness, then I feel like you're robbing yourself. Yeah. So I don't think in my own life, and this article made me reflect on that a little bit. I think I told you I was traveling the last couple of days and was reading Kim's article, kind of preparing for this show. And I had to ask myself, how much time do I spend examining my habits? Yeah. And I don't think it's enough. And I mean, there's good habits, there's bad habits, right? That either the good habits should help us be successful. The bad habits probably hinder us from being as successful as what we could be. And I think it's just important to take some time intentionally to look at it. Absolutely. Right? Evaluate your life a little bit. And that's kind of what I did, because I had a 3-hour layover in O'Hare yesterday. And I was thinking about, Mine was Charlotte. Yeah. There you go. What's good? What's bad? Yeah. Where do I need to make some changes? And I think that's the point that Kim was trying to make in the article, is you have to examine them. You got to look at it. You got to say, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Yeah. Right. And how do I make this change? Because if you want to be successful, there's got to be some intentionality behind it. Sure, you can win the lottery and all of that thing. And for each of us, success is defined so differently, right? You talked about the relationship with your husband. Other people are thinking about my professional career and those things. And the bottom line is if you want to be successful, you've got to spend some time really thinking about, how do I go about achieving that? And where are there barriers that I need to overcome? I call them mirror checks. I don't know if you've done that, right? So that is something, and I don't do it daily, but truly just looking in a mirror. Yeah. And when your eyes just go that deep into the mirror where you're looking at yourself back, who am I? And what am I doing? And just letting that help guide. But exactly to that point. I could even see it in a pros and cons list, right? Sure. It's just creating some framework for how you look at this. And then, another component that Kim laid out is what your mindset. Assess your mindset. Right? How do you evaluate that? And I think oftentimes failures in our lives impact our mindset. Right? They hold us back a lot of times. When we fail, we start to question ourselves. Should I really be going down this pathway? And I often say in my life, and I talk with my kids, I played athletics my entire life.
I don't do it anymore, but I'm still involved in athletics, either coaching or now I'm officiating athletics. And I think athletics is one of the best trainers for how to fail forward, right? Because that's what you do. If you're going to be successful as an athlete, you're going to fail and you got to learn how to overcome that. But I think we have to apply that to our mindset professionally too.
Absolutely.
You got to understand failure is going to come. And what are you going to do to overcome that, right? And rather than let that be the barrier for why you don't be successful. How do you strengthen your mindset to attack failure?
Sure. I am a huge attribute for therapy.
Okay.
I really am. I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be a paid therapist, but having somebody that is either a mentor or therapy, however you want to do it, but who is that person or persons that are helping to keep you grounded and to keep you in check. It's really easy, I think, in life to just get busy and not even realize when you're starting to struggle, right? And so mentally, for me, I have a tendency, I'll just throw it up on the shelf and I'll forget about it, and then I don't have to worry about it, and then I'm just going through life. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, literally the sky is falling, because then I never really pulled those things back off the shelf to deal with them, right? So mentally, exercise helps. You were even talking about this, and this doesn't have to be that you're running a marathon or you're actively involved in sports, but I find that if I am doing my 2 days a week with my strength trainer, 30 minutes a time, and I am, seeing my therapist, and I'm decent sleep, and some of these things mentally, nutrition, absolutely, all of the healthy medicine lifestyles, right? I mean, that's really what it is. What are these 6 things that you need? Positive people around you, really good sleep, plant-based diet, all of the attributes. But having somebody help that keep you mentally in check before you get too far down is really important.
I appreciate you said that. That's another point in the article too, is evaluating who your influences are.
Oh, yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yes, 100%.
There is, and I even wrote it down as your circle influence is so critical, because those are people that can challenge you.
Absolutely.
Right? To be better, to think differently. And it's important to have people in your circle of influence who think differently than you.
Yes.
They can't just be cheerleaders for you.
How do you grow if you just have somebody saying,
exactly,
awesome, you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over because you're amazing as you are.
They're afraid to tell you the things that you're doing that are maybe impacting negatively on your success or whatever, and to challenge you. So that's the question that I want to ask you. How do you protect your circle of influence? Because people can infiltrate that, right? Or people want to be on the inside that maybe shouldn't be. So do you think about that? Do you
over
work
the years
on that? What have you learned about that?
My personality and who I am is, it's kind of like arms wide open, like, a lot of people. It's just like we're all friends. We're all friends. I have had to, I'm going to use like bunny ears or whatever, fire some friends before. And it really was a trusted person, my husband actually, who is an amazing proponent for things good and positive, was just noticing a couple of these relationships that I was in. And it was, are you sure this is a healthy relationship? What are you gaining? I see you giving. What are you gaining? And there's, ebb and flow, right? I mean, people in their lives go through challenging times, and it doesn't mean that you're just like, oh, you're going through some crap, and so I'm going to drop you, right? But overall, right? How does that go? And so I did have to let go of a few relationships that were just not feeding me well, and it was hindering who I was as a person. I think it really is. So as I've grown, it's what does this relationship mean? Right. What do I want from this relationship? And what do you want to give? And what do you want to give? Yes, absolutely. I've had the pleasure, and I'm still mentoring some young people, and I love that, being asked to mentor people. That is completely one-sided. Even though I'm happy and I'm rewarded helping these young people,
Right.
that's 100% me giving to them. I have no expectations other than, just their time and going back and forth. But friends and your circle and where you're working and where you go to church and all of these things, are they the right persons, that right influence around you that's building you up, not down?
I think you've answered this somewhat indirectly, but what do you look for from others that you want to be in your circle of influence?
So I do love critical thinking, because that's not something that I would not call that one of my strong attributes. Although as I look at things, I really am a critical thinker. It's the diversity. Because to your point, I could have a lot of people that are, the cheerleaders and very similar attributes, but now it's, well, you do this over here. I'm really interested in what that is. And it doesn't necessarily mean career, but whatever that is there, that would bring a diversity of options to thinking, actions. I did pottery. Like I went and molded pottery a couple months ago. I've never done that. I would never have thought about that. But then somebody brought that to me. Right. So it's just a small thing, but that's really how I think about bringing new people into
I love the diversity component, right? And it's about diversity of skills, I think, is what you're talking about. And I think that it's also people who maybe think differently or act differently than how I do, because their perspective is different.
Different beliefs as well. That is another thing that I look at. So I really love exploring people that are deep rooted in their faith, whatever that faith is. I have the most amazing Buddhist and Hindu friends that I love just talking and getting those individuals, and Judaism, just a lot of these circles, and having some really interesting conversations and challenging conversations that are so positive. Is great. So I think a religious diversity is really important.
Yeah, I think you're right. Diversity just in itself, where there's so many different layers of diversity, and they're all good, but to really think about that from a strategic mindset of how each of them can bring something different to the table that's going to help support you to be more successful. I think there's a ton of value in that. And then also you got to look at it from the perspective, how do I help them?
Absolutely.
Right. Because it is a give and take.
Absolutely.
Right. We can't always just be sending back, give me this, because that's going to flame out over time. People see through that, I think, which is important. Okay. So the next one is identifying your excuses, which I think is challenging, because we all have them. We all have excuses for reason why we didn't do this, didn't do that, why this failed and wasn't my fault, type of thing. I don't like that mindset, right? I talk to my kids about it all the time. Don't tell me it was somebody else's fault, right? I don't want to hear that, even though it may have been. There's something else that you could have done differently to impact that situation. But I think honest self-evaluation is one of the hardest things, I think, for people to work in. I struggle with it because it's hard to admit to yourself that you screwed up. You stink at something, right? Let alone admit to other people that you did that. But I think that's one of the reasons why the circle of influence is so important.
Absolutely.
Because they can.
That's exactly what I was going to circle back to.
They can check you on that.
They can. And when you have the right people, exactly. When you have those people that are trusted. And I have a couple girlfriends, and, one of them she'll say, I'm noticing this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that just happened. Yep. You're right. And the longer you're friends with the right people, they're going to notice when things are kind of going a little wonky, or if your behavior is getting a little wonky.
When you're drifting from center.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let me ask. This is a bit of a personal question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
I'm an open book. You know this, Andy.
So are there excuses that you've had to overcome in your life, and how'd you do that? Is there anything you can speak to?
I think the biggest one, the first one that just came to mind, was I had a victim mentality for a very long time.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of being a presenter on That's What She Said last year, and I was able to tell my story, and writing down a lot of that in 10 minutes and trying to be concise was very therapeutic, right? And going through that. But realizing that I was blaming my dad, I was blaming my mom, I was blaming the kid's dad, I was blaming the kid's stepmom, I was blaming, all of these people. That's so easy just to point a finger and say, well, you did that or you did that, and then therefore I'm in this situation.
Right. Or my actions are
or my
justified
actions,
because
yes.
of that.
Well, I'm only here because you did this. When that switch flipped, is when things really started to change.
So how did it switch?
I found myself divorced, single mom of 3 kids, living in my parents' house again, going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do
life
now?
Circumstances changed.
Life circumstances put me right back to where I didn't want to be. It was extremely humbling. And again, it was easy to say, oh, look at what my ex did. Look at we both did this. There's all these contributions to everything that's happened. And I finally at that point said, okay, that's enough. That's awesome. Enough. Which is then when I started ICC and down this path and, this career.
So there's some self-awareness.
100%. But I think a lot of that also comes down to therapy, right? Yeah. So I think if somebody is struggling and they don't necessarily have that circle or those persons that are automatically there, an easy button is to find the right therapist that you can open up with and then in a trusting setting where you're not feeling attacked.
Right.
It's truly a conversation and that this is to help you grow.
Right.
That's really where, that's what I started to do in my 30s and have just continued to work on. I'm still a work in progress until I die. Sure.
We all are.
But that was a really big one.
Well, that takes some bravery on your part, right? And some courage to really dig into that and evaluate. And I would imagine there was some self-evaluation.
Absolutely.
Yes. You assessed your mindset as part of that.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You looked at your external influences and all of those things kind of help lead you down that pathway. But it's easy to fall in the cycle of blaming other people or other things for why we're struggling. But really the reality is what do I got to do about this? Exactly. I have to do something differently to overcome this. Yeah. And if you just continue to blame whatever it is, it's just not. I don't think it's a healthy mindset.
And we can't always control our circumstances, right? I mean, sometimes the reality is you really cannot do anything about your circumstance, but you can control your attitude. You can control your response to the situation. And even if those are the 2 things that you have full control over, if you can keep those positive, it will be amazing how quickly you get out of that situation just by that positive thinking and that attitude choice.
Right. Doors will open.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the final piece of it. And it's about measuring results. Anybody who's successful, I think, would tell you that they didn't get there unless they measured their...
How do you define her success?
How do I define it?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Because we're saying, right? Anyone who's successful, what is the definition of success?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's doing everything that I can to keep my health, right? It's having a healthy family. When I say it beyond just physical health, right? It's healthy family that we love each other, right? We care for each other. We commit. And also I'm responsible for a fairly large organization here in town called the YMCA, and that has to be healthy too. And there's a lot of success measurements within that. They're just built into the role of being the CEO for the organization. But more importantly, it's my faith. Am I grounded in my faith? Am I consistent in growing in my faith and growing closer to, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Because I have to be intentional in that effort. That's important to me. But if we don't measure our success in anything that we're doing, how do we know that we're getting better? Yeah. Right? So can you talk a little bit about the things that you do in your life to measure your success?
This is a really good question that I feel is like 7 more sessions long. I think for me personally, just even, I mean, if we're talking about careers, just even acknowledging, from where I was, I mean, gosh, when I met Kim, I was working at 309 bartending, right? I was doing these part-time jobs, making headbands, la-di-da headbands, slinging those things. Like, how do I make a buck to take care of my kids and then, get through school? So success, I have a career now, right? Like it's this, and a lot of that is not just where you work. It's this shift of mind. I'm a very career-oriented person now. So I would call that successful.
Okay.
I think, a lot of it has a tendency to be monetary. That's just kind of what we do. Is nature, we're just like, okay, check. Okay, fine. I've got the car. I've got the house. I've got, the job.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I will come definitely agree and align with you that for me, it's my family. My husband and I have blended our family, and we have 5 kids. And there's nothing that means more to me than loving on those kids and seeing them now growing. Right. And when I can see them succeeding or taking these risks and doing things, which are a lot of the attributes that we've instilled in them, that is a huge success to me. I'm like, that is successful. Oh my gosh, look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I think it's extremely important. Do you take time to, and do you make an intentional effort to evaluate your successes and make adjustments? How much time do you spend doing that?
Probably once a month in therapy. Honestly, that is like literally one of my checks. That's the point,
right? Is that you're taking your intentional time to evaluate your success and then learning where there might be fractures or failures, and then making adjustments based on that. And I think that's the point that we're trying to make here, is that you've got to spend time doing that. Right? You can't just continue to meander through life or whatever it is.
It's not just going to do it on its own
if you don't evaluate it. Right? Now, in my job, it's built into my job.
Sure.
I have measurements outcomes that I need to try to perform against, and those get measured on an annual basis and really monthly on how we're doing as an organization. But outside of that, it's a little more difficult because I don't spend, if I'm being honest, I don't spend nearly as much time as I should evaluating my relationship with my wife or my relationship with my 4 kids or my parents or anybody else like I do in my work, because it consumes a lot of my time, right? But it's built in for me too. So I think it's important for us just to take the time, step back, look at things, create a few benchmarks that you want to try to achieve in the next 30 days, next 90 days, the next year, that roadmap for success, and then look back and evaluate it, which I think is important.
Yeah. Maybe it's a practice with your wife, and James and I, we do that actually. And I don't know that we've ever set times for benchmarks of it, but hey, I need to do this, and this is when I want to do it by. And then we will hold each other accountable, on some of those things. But life can get in the way, and it runs, and we're very busy people, but this is also, we also have choices of where we spend our time.
That's right.
And so we have to make ourselves a priority.
Yeah. It could be just as simple as, hey, tell me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? Give me a little bit of feedback. Am I on the right track here? Am I not? Whatever. Well, this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, this flew.
It did. It always does.
Yeah.
It's been great conversation.
Thank you for having
easy
me.
to talk to. You've got good input to share with others. I hope those of you out there that are tuning in have gained something from this. We think it's really valuable. Good luck to you in the upcoming election.
Thank you.
April, right?
April 1, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. Yeah. Anyone, Peoria, Tazewell, Woodford can vote for me. So I'm on the docket all over. But this has been amazing. Thank you, Andy.
Well, thank you.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been a while.
It has.
And thank you to everybody out there. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Our Community.